services and public safety that will take just as big a hit.
So the motion that has been approved by several school committees, I don't have the number, it's simply, I'll read it and see if everybody's comfortable with it. It would simply state that the North Reading School Committee opposes question 1, a ballot initiative that would eliminate the state income tax. Passage of question 1 would cut the state budget by 40%, cause massive reductions in local aid to cities and towns, and result in drastic reductions in school programs. That's the motion. That's the motion. You have it? Okay. So, I can't make it though, so I want to make it.
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Bowers.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Next question. Oh.
So
Take a position on the Greyhound racing.
no, we're not. I used to go to Seabrook in my youth, but I don't go anymore. Okay, next on the agenda. My agenda.
Not mine?
Bills and payrolls,
They're
are
all
they
done.
done?
Yep.
Okay, I got it, here we go. Minutes. Minutes. Items of minutes. Okay. On the regular meeting for September 8th, on the second page, the second paragraph, the third line that starts with anniversary. See that?
Mm-hmm.
About 8 words in, it should be expanded, not expended. And the only other change I had for everything, I looked at all of them. On page 3, on that same, under 2.D.3, I'm not sure I understand the last sentence on the budget and planning. There's an automatic 2% increase given each year from the town. I'm not sure. Do you see what I'm talking about? I think what we were talking about there was that we have been increasing our school building budgets 2% each year.
Yeah,
But that doesn't really
wasn't
fit in
mentioned
there.
the finance planning team, yeah.
So I think we could
Very good.
just strike that sentence. And then I didn't have anything else.
Motion to approve with those 2 changes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Then we have the September 15th, which was the goals workshop, and I had nothing on that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then finally, our meeting prior to town meeting and the town meeting on October 6th, I also had nothing on.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Administrative reports. We had a budget report, but Carl's not here. Do you want to address that?
I
David?
do. Carl has put together the first budget report for FY09. And he points out, as we know, that overall we seem to be doing okay right now in terms of FY09. On the salary side, we're a little bit below, but again, with some of the hiring and the addition of some new staff, some of it which we had projected, but with class sizes, we had to pick up a few positions to balance it out. We're a little bit under. However, we've been having discussions both in our finance planning team meeting as well as with the administrative council. And we do expect that the governor is going to be listing out a series of reductions in the FY09 budget. And it is my recommendation to put into effect right now for FY09 a budget freeze. And I communicated that last Thursday to the administrative council that I wanted to bring into the committee officially tonight.
Do we have to vote on that, or? I don't think so, do we?
No.
Because someone has said something, because I've read 20 articles, and all these different mayors from different towns are all walking away saying, we think we're gonna have to put a 7% cut into place in our state funding. And I just have a feeling that that's what we're gonna hear in January unless there's a great improvement in the economy. So, you know, fortunately, it'll be for half the year, so it'll be 3.5% of our, but I think we need to start, I think putting a freeze in place
Oh,
now makes
depends.
sense.
No, it could be the opposite.
Oh, it could be the whole year, right.
It's a 7% for the whole year, that means it's 14% we
That's
have
right.
to make up in the second half of the year.
That's
I
right.
think that's
Yeah.
probably what
That
it's
might be what it's gonna be.
And you're not gonna save a lot of money in that respect, because that's just the billing principles.
Right.
Is that, yeah, Dave, what does freeze mean? I mean,
Not
that means
much.
that the,
Copier paper.
Well, it means on any discretionary
Discretionary spending.
expenses, we're gonna look very carefully at substitute costs. Anything that is not absolutely required is going to be reviewed by me, and which is not typical. It's usually with the principal and ultimately with Carl, so this is a freeze. And we've been there before, but I think it's a prudent move given the financial situation at this time.
But when your budget is approximately 83% personnel,
Right.
and if a teacher leaves, you have to replace the teacher, I guess there isn't as much we can do by freezing that 17%, and probably 10% of that most of that 17% is probably necessary
Transportation,
spending, right, exactly,
utilities,
right.
So you end up with the nickels and dimes that
Right.
principals order
I
coffee.
think we have
Well, I
to
think
do
that's
it.
the first tier. I think
Right.
that in the next few weeks, as we learn more about what will happen at the state level, it would be my expectation, best call to start working on a series of strategies that will be used to further reduce the FY19
this
budget.
would be one of the first times we've been faced with this kind of a situation in the middle of a fiscal
Right.
year, having that kind of a reduction
And you're
in
limited.
revenue.
Right.
I mean,
That'd be,
you're
yeah,
talking,
you really are limited.
you know, allowing schools to go down to 60 degrees versus
Right.
64. I mean, that's one that it's uncomfortable thinking
Right,
because
but you
we're
have
both
to-
here, but.
Well, we do have, and we're very careful, as many of you know, with the heat, and Wayne Hardiker is able to control that in each of the buildings. However, one of the ideas that I thought would be helpful is to send out a notice to parents, not encouraging, not saying we're going to turn the temperature to a point where it's uncomfortable, but to really encourage parents to make sure that their children are dressed appropriately
Yeah.
to
You might want to leave a sweater in the locker at school.
we see too
for
many
those days.
students coming to school with just T-shirts and shorts on, and it's just, as it gets colder, that's not appropriate.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go beyond the spending freeze, because we do that in regular years. And I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we'll be dropping the temperature, because we only have so many things we can do.
Well, we have our budget, we're gonna have a budget workshop on Monday, and by then, there's gonna be new revenue projections coming out this week. So while they're not gonna say they're cutting local aid, if we see revenue projections that are showing $1 billion to $2 billion, shortfall, I think we know what we're gonna have to expect and prepare for it. And I think we need to start talking about that on Monday
Yeah,
night.
I think you have to replace a classroom teacher,
Right.
but beyond that, any other
Exactly.
staff.
You have to think about, right?
we shouldn't.
You find yourself in a position where you have to replace a classroom teacher.
At
depending
some
on
point,
the-
right.
Right, we're getting there.
Yeah.
And that's in a year when the state tax is being collected at 5.3%.
Right.
So
Right.
if they cut that in half January 1st and then the other half July 1st,
Right, we'll
you'd be saying goodbye to
have
kindergarten
our work cut out.
real fast and any other programs.
Okay, David. Staffing, David, you have one item to
Yeah,
report?
briefly, we have a new teacher who was hired as a .6 physical education teacher, and we were unable to offer this teacher full-time employment. He's accepted full-time employment in Reading. So Christian Heisinger has submitted a letter of intent to resign, and actually today was his last day. So again, here's another issue: do we replace that position, or do we look at what we're offering students and perhaps do things in a different way?
I think we do have to look at doing things in a different way, but not one elementary school.
Right.
While the other
No,
two
no,
have
right, no,
full
right.
gym classes, so, yeah, we do have to look at it.
And the challenge is, if you had to look at it, it would mean sharing teachers among 3 buildings, which would mean changing schedules, which would mean reducing the amount of phys ed, which would mean what do we do with the kids when they're not in phys ed, right? So,
we would be back to where.
Last year.
We were last year.
Right, which is a strong possibility.
right. Okay, no bids and donations. Subcommittee reports, Maureen, do you have a youth at risk?
No, I wasn't there, I was away.
Okay, David, do you have a youth at risk or anything?
We had a first meeting, and we're really pleased that the police department has formalized this school resource officer
Mhm.
position. And we're going to be, in November, we're going to bring the members of the youth at risk, particularly focusing on this SRO position. So we'll have the police officers here, a chance for you to learn about what they do. They're obviously going to continue doing some of the teaching, and they're going to work closely with our new health program here at the middle school.
Is that one officer or one officer per?
It's actually,
Grade level.
it's one per school, middle and high school.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I want to commend the police department and the superintendent for setting up this type of relationship with the police department, because I'm not sure that every school department has that kind of
Yeah,
relationship
extremely
with the
positive.
police
Yeah.
department, and it's really worked out very, very
I
well.
agree.
They are eager, if we gave them more time to come in, they would.
Well, again, and I commend David too, because not every superintendent wants the police
Right.
involved, and I think it's worked out very, very, very well, so.
Great. Give a quick report on the Fiscal Advisory Committee. I'm still not officially sworn in, but I did sit in at the last meeting. Not much specific. It was kind of a lot of discussion about a lot of different areas. There was some discussion about the fire department, discussion about upcoming contract negotiations. I provided the committee with information on how they were looking at how is it decided who negotiates, say, the teacher's contract, and I provided them with the section from Law 51E, Mass Statute 150E, that discusses that it's the school committee. But there weren't. The next meeting is next Tuesday night, and there weren't any specific items to come out of that. There was some discussion about the presentation at town meeting. That's about it for that. Athletic subcommittee, we met today. Again, our first meeting. I think the one item to report on athletic subcommittee is that there's still a lot of initial work going on in terms of looking at how to get a turf field into North Reading. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work going on, but we're still at very early stages of that project.
We have those earmarks.
We need, yes.
There's a couple of towns that got them.
Right. So, and then most of the other items we discussed were just general in nature. Any other subcommittee reports, David? I don't think so. No, we have no strategic planning update. And David, administrative reports. I see you have the enrollment figures.
Right, the October 1 is the official date for the enrollment, and we're right on target. We're off by 2 in terms of the 10-year projection for this year. We had projected 2,793, we have 2,791 students. There are some fluctuations that are concerning, and I've mentioned this before, but kindergarten class is significantly larger than what we had projected based on number of births in the community 5 years prior. So we have projected 168 kindergarten students, we have 195 kindergarten students. And we'll update the 10-year enrollment projections the 1st of November. The other administrative report sort of tied to enrollment deals with some stats on the transfer of students out of our 8th grade into other schools other than North Reading High School in the 9th grade. And I mentioned this earlier, but we had, I believe, 34 students, which represents over 16% of the 8th grade class went to some other school. And of those 34 students, 10 of them